Hey guys, welcome back to ProductNation. Omar here, and today we're gonna be doing an in-depth review of the camera on the Xiaomi Mi Note 10. So this phone was just announced here in Malaysia, but we had it a week or so before the release, so we had some time to play around with it. So we did some tests, and we have the results here. So this is the world's first 108 megapixel penta camera. So yeah, let's just check this review out and see what really is there to be excited about when it comes to this camera system. When it comes to the 108 megapixels, it actually produces really good images. I love the color reproduction on this phone. So the lens at the top is a 5 megapixel telephoto lens that gives you 10 times hybrid zoom. So moving down to the second camera lens, it's a 12 megapixel lens, and this one is the 2 times zoom telephoto for portrait photography. This is what gives you that 50 to 55 millimeter look, that portrait shot look, and it looks very good for portraits. Moving one step down, that's the big bad lens. That's the one everyone's been talking about. It's the 108 megapixel lens. So the sensor on this is a little bit bigger than other smartphones, which is what we saw during the Xiaomi event. It's supposed to do way better in low light, and from my testing it did do that. It looks a lot cleaner in low light because of that bigger sensor size. So underneath the 108 megapixel camera, right there, you have an ultra wide angle lens, which is capable of getting a lot of detail and gives you a 0.6 times zoom on your regular standard lens. So last but not the least, this tiny pimple looking thing at the bottom is the 2 megapixel macro lens that allows you to focus in up to 2 centimeters, which is very close. Besides that, it shoots 4K at 30 FPS as well. It also has a super slow mode for the macro lens at 960 FPS. It also does 1080 at 240 FPS. That's a lot of things to talk about. We're gonna look at every single one of those things that I mentioned because I've tested every single one of those features, and you're gonna be seeing that on screen now. So let's just begin by talking about stuff. And as you guys can see, the resolution is actually 108 megapixels. So that means it's not scaled up or anything. The actual file resolution is that of a 108 megapixel file. If I zoom into his face, the bird's face, you can actually see how much detail is maintained even at 100% crop. So if you take a picture, for example, and you don't like the framing of it, so let's say I took this picture and I don't really like the frame, I still have the option to crop in and reframe as I see fit. So the details on the bird are very good. Even in low light, you guys can see the feathers, and just look at that. That's a 108 megapixel file, all the way cropped into 100%. That's crazy. So if I decide to go in 4:1, that's 400% of crop, you still have that bit of detail. Let's move on. If you take a picture, you don't like the composition, you don't even need to worry anymore. All you have to do is crop in and you decide your new composition without losing any detail whatsoever. That is very good. So this picture of a cat, for example, I took this in the car park, and there's like dirt on the wall, there's tools in the background, there's a paint bucket in the background. It looks very ugly. But if I decide to zoom in and crop, I can change the composition, get a better frame, get a better image. I don't need to worry about all these details or about losing quality. Think about it this way. You went from here all the way to here, and there's still no loss in quality. And then you can still go in. You can go 3:1. That's 300% of zoom on the original. You can do 4:1. Still maintaining detail. You can do 800%. Here's where it gets a bit crazy, but honestly, just check this out. You went from here to there, and you still maintain detail. We haven't moved on to the optical zooming without the cropping yet. Let's just talk about the optical zoom. This is a shot 20 megapixel file taken using the ultra wide angle. Ultra wide angle, 1x zoom, 2x zoom, 5x zoom, and then 50 times zoom. So this is where this phone really blows my mind. That's a digital zoom, by the way, it's not optical zoom. So for me personally, by my testing, between the 5x to 10x zoom gives you the best result when you're talking about maintaining image quality. Anything beyond 10 kind of goes downhill, but up to 10, you get really good image quality, even maintaining sharpness when you zoom in very far away. 0.6 times zoom, 1x zoom, 2x zoom, 5x zoom, 50 times zoom. So as you guys can see, I can actually read what's written on the building, where on the 0.6 times, you couldn't even see that. So if you don't turn on the 108 megapixel file and you look at the 27 megapixel file, On the screen side by side, you really can't tell the difference. Honestly speaking, you post it on Instagram, wherever you post it, you will not be able to tell the difference. It's only when you zoom in, crop in, scale it up, print it out is when you're gonna see that massive improvement in image quality on the 108 megapixels. There's a picture of the moon. That's the freaking moon. I just took that in the middle of the night, just pointed my camera straight up, zoomed in 50 times, took a picture. That's the moon. You can see a crescent moon. What? With a phone? Crazy. A little bit of editing, black and white, you're good. You're good to go. All right, really quick, we're gonna touch on the night mode because I have only one example of this. As you guys can see clearly in the shot, this is ridiculous. I feel really bad for the regular mode when I see the night mode. All right, as you guys can clearly see, I haven't over-sharpened the image. I've just changed the colors a little bit. Look at the one on the left and then look at the one on the right. The amount of detail you're capturing on the right is a lot more than that of the left. All right, so moving on to the trees, to the bottom right corner, right there. Check that out. The amount of detail you lose out on when you don't use the night mode. Again, looking at the trees in the middle of the image, you can barely see this signboard here, and it also supports HDR in night mode, so you can see that the highlights are maintained as opposed to them being blown out like in the regular shot. So cars here look like a mess. Here you can actually see them. I could go on, like the leaves, detail in the leaves, it's very impressive how it performs using the low light mode. All right, so now let's talk about everyone's favorite, the portrait mode. It works more like a DSLR than like a digital blur, software blur kind of thing. This is a picture taken using the portrait lens. If I do enable the blur to be a lot blurrier, it looks very realistic because it actually knows depth rather than using a depth sensor. It's actually a 55mm lens, so it looks a lot more natural. The fall off is a lot better. So if you can see here, there's this guy in the background in the blue. You can see him clearly. You see how her hair is very sharp. You can barely see the edges, but when you enhance the blur, you can barely see this dude. So that's a lot of fun, changing up the focus. This is my favorite shot from the portraits that I took today. So you can see here, the background blur is pretty nice as it is, but if I enhance it a little bit, it looks even better and the sides are maintained. Like that's a pretty sharp shot. The fall off is very nice. I can barely tell that this was like digitally done. So that's very impressive. I always like portrait modes that look realistic and the colors are on point. So this is before and after. As you guys can see, that is something that's very impressive. All right, so one thing that really impressed me about this camera is the video mode. And my favorite thing, hands down, out of every feature of the camera would be the vlog mode. It's able to capture a 10 to 15 second video clip for you, I think, horizontally, where you just click record and then it creates a segment, and then you click record, it creates another segment, so it does that multiple times, and then it stitches it together, color grades it for you, edits to the beats of the music, and you have a 15-second vlog created for you by the phone itself. You have to do nothing except point and shoot. I'm gonna put up some examples now so you guys can see what this really looks like. So as you guys can clearly see from this example, the vlog mode is a lot of fun and you actually enjoy this a lot more than I expected to. Turning on the stabilization literally feels like this is floating through space. So you guys can see clearly from that video, running across like an idiot. Without the stabilization turned on, it looks ridiculous. It's like baka chaka, even though the optical stabilization kicked in. But when you turn on the digital stabilization as well, it's just bliss, like just floating through life. Now, when it comes to the 5x zoom feature in the video, the stabilization is amazing. I think my favorite stabilization on any phone so far has to be this one, especially the shot that I took through a moving car on a highway, off a building. I was able to maintain that composition while I was shaking up and down. Here's an example of what it looked like with my phone. I took it look how much it was shaking. It's crazy, right? And then on this phone, it just looked like it's on a gimbal, I'm on a crane and I'm moving through like it's a film set or something. So I would install something like Filmic Pro on this so I can get better dynamic range, shoot more flat, not have those crazy vibrant colors, and then you could pretty much just make like films with this. Really loving that, absolutely awesome. As a bonus, I also threw in an iPhone 4S comparison. So this was an 8 megapixel camera versus a 108 megapixel camera, and you guys can actually see the difference between an 8 megapixel camera and a 108 megapixel camera. So both images are going to be on screen for you guys to see the difference. This one was released in 2011, this was released in 2019. Let's see if people can actually tell the difference, right? If I edited the same way, same colors, can you really see the difference on a tiny screen? That's all. We really hope this video was useful to you. We hope you liked the pictures that you saw in this video. If you did, follow us on Instagram so we'll post more of these pictures and you guys can stay up to date. So do let us know in the comments and the poll right there which feature you're most excited about. Is it the 108 megapixel camera? Is it the vlog mode? Or is it the massive amount of zoom that you get out of this, right? Let us know in the poll and the comments, and we'll see you in the next video.